So good morning, everyone. I want just to make the opening for this showcasing research-based collaboration in capacity building design for climate action. I would like to invite our friend that is Solhanlle Bonilla from INTEC, Franco from Virginia Tech, Stella, Schons, Virginia, and Marcelo Tavares from the Universidad Federal de Las Rías in Brazil. So please. I give the floor to Carol, who will moderate the section, and go ahead.
Hello?
Yeah, very close to the microphone.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our session. And thank you for being here. I know there are a lot of events right now, and very interesting events. So being here means a lot to us. So today we're going to be talking about in our event how we showcase ongoing research-based collaborations between academic research institutions in the Americas. So looking at developed and developing countries, and how do we create and develop these synergies and these collaborations together. And the idea is, based on these collaborations, to generate and share knowledge, lessons learned, data management and analysis, but mainly in the view of climate change, it's to support countries in their NDCs commitments, both adaptation and mitigation. How can we, through the academia, through research, in both developed and developing countries, support our governments, our countries, to fulfill their commitments through the NDCs, or National Determined Contributions. We're going to be talking about 4 different initiatives that we have between Virginia Tech and INTEC, and Virginia Tech in the United States, INTEC in Dominican Republic. In Brazil, we have Federal University of Lavras, and also working with the Amazon Cooperation Treaty Organization. So we're going to have these 4 different initiatives and experiences, and also INTEC works with the University of New York and in Puerto Rico also. And we're going to be talking about the Climate Change Resilient Observatory in the Dominican Republic, which is the first one we have, and it's just created a couple of years ago. Ecosystem services, transboundary ecosystem services in Dominican Republic and Haiti, valuation and evaluation of them. Integrated sustainable management of transboundary water resources, and this is part of the ACTO initiative. And finally, remote sensing, forest biometrics, and economics to understand and tackle land use and land cover change. As you know, this is one of the main issues, very much related to REDD+ and mitigation. So to start, we're going to have a video, but first, Solhanlle is going to tell us a couple of words about what is this video all about.
Hello, I'm Solhanlle from the Dominican Republic. We have the INTEC, the Climate Change Observatory of the country, is one of the mandatory of the national policy of climate change. This observatory is working in research and metrics and helping the NDCs of the country, and we are connected to the Central American countries too. We are doing of the climate change national, regional communication system for climate change. It's a red that we have with the Central American countries, but the SICA, System of Central American Communication. So we have one of the first research project of the observatory is a research of the National Academy of Science of the United States. It's for metric the environmental services of the urban forest in the Dominican Republic, and we are creating the system of climate quality of air of the city too. So we will show the video about how we are doing that. We have public and private accordings with some of the cities of the council city of the city, Santo Domingo, of the council, and with the environmental ministry and on the education ministry too. So we have in this project too the networking of environmental universities of the Dominican Republic, that are 16 universities around the country that are contributing with this project too. We have making capacity with I3, that is an it's one of the, it's a tool of the USA Forest Services created for measuring the environmental services of the urban forest. And we are making that in Puerto Rico and Santo Domingo with the University of Puerto Rico and the Tropical Taxonomy Center of Research in Puerto Rico. And we are making arrangement with the Costa Rica and El Salvador for do that and compare what happened in our cities with the urban forests and how these urban forests can be used for the metric of the carbon sequestrations in the cities. So we can see the video and then we can ask some questions. You can ask some questions.
Just want to say, and I apologize, this is Solhanlle Bonilla, professor of INTEC, Instituto Tecnológico of Santo Domingo from Dominican Republic. Next to her is Stella Schons from Virginia Tech, professor in Virginia Tech. Luis Marcelo Carvalho from Federal University of Lavres, and Carol Franco from Virginia Tech. And we have been collaborated for several years in projects from Dominican Republic to Brazil to United States.
This is Santo Domingo City. We have the measurements in all of the main parts of the forest and in the city.
Es un factor bastante determinante en lo que son el mantenimiento de cuencas.
We have four students in the master's degree of environmental engineering, making the research inside of the project.
Nosotros nos referimos a la sombra y a la producción de oxígeno, pero hay otros servicios, como la remoción de contaminantes atmosféricos, todos aquellos que se generan por el flujo vehicular y por la industria.
We have people working from the University of Puerto Rico, Marvin Perez and the professor Elvia Melendez Ackerman.
Y esto hace que se reduzca.
We are measuring the different ecosystem services of the forest, this is one of our students. It's working with families and the perception of families with the forest and what they have in the backyards and in the gardens. And we are making 27 points of quality of air in the city too. We are contributing with the environmental ministry for have a networking for measuring the quality of the air in the city.
ECO es una herramienta desarrollada por el Servicio Forestal de los Estados Unidos que ha sido aplicada en varias ciudades a nivel mundial. Es usada para
We make about
generados por árboles.
200 people that be capacity with this I3 tool that is created by David Novak, is one of our scientists of the USA Forest Services. This Ariel Lugo is the director of the TIF in Puerto Rico.
Por su cuenta y ninguno le presta atención a la vegetación, pero el I3 es una herramienta que sintetiza todas esas especialidades dentro de sus resultados, porque al hacerse la pregunta cómo la vegetación ayuda a cada una de esas especialidades, entonces la ITRI te produce información sobre cómo tú puedes controlar la temperatura en el vecindario, cómo puedes controlar la temperatura en tu edificio, cómo tú puedes reducir la inundación, cómo tú puedes
You can mention about the relation with trees and energy consumption in the city. And
Las mediciones de los árboles en las cuales se toman ciertos parámetros, diámetro, ancho de la copa, altura del árbol, cómo está su estado de condición general, y en base a esto se hace un cálculo de los servicios ecosistémicos que puede proveer este árbol en función de su especie, de su edad y de su condición física.
Hemos estado trabajando más fuertemente es INTEC, que es una herramienta que hemos estado usando en muchas ciudades de Estados Unidos y en Europa. Se ha empezado en República Dominicana, pero los primeros dos lugares, Colombia y México, les han seguido.
a partir de conocer la herramienta ITRI en un curso que participamos en Puerto Rico, empezamos a ver la vinculación con el trabajo que hacíamos en diferentes ámbitos y en la gestión ambiental también, y la herramienta, la utilidad que podía tener esta herramienta. Entonces planteamos un proyecto para PIB, que es una ventana de financiamiento de la Academia de Ciencias de Estados Unidos, con nuestros socios de la Universidad de Puerto Rico, del Instituto de Astronomía Tropical de Puerto Rico y del US Forest Service, y RAUDA, que es la Red Ambiental de Universidades Dominicanas, para utilizar esta herramienta y medir los beneficios del arbolado urbano en la ciudad de Santo Domingo, específicamente en el polígono central.
El programa incluye la participación de estudiantes o profesionales del sector urbanístico, como arquitectos, ingenieros y personal afín al manejo de recursos naturales.
Yo actualmente estoy en una maestría de Ingeniería Sanitaria y Ambiental con el Instituto Tecnológico de Santo Domingo. Entonces, es en base realmente a la herramienta. Con ella pues pretendemos conocer los servicios ambientales que nos brinda el arbolado en ciertas zonas de la ciudad de Santo Domingo, para así, vamos a decir, que gestionar adecuadamente los mismos, ¿no? Para sacar el mayor provecho y ventaja.
Para mí es toda una innovación. Actualmente no conocía ninguna herramienta que relacionara el arbolado urbano con cualquier aspecto de la ingeniería, y para mí es toda una innovación. La herramienta ITRI combina todo lo que tenga que ver con los ecosistemas, con lo que vivimos actualmente.
Por muy complejas que sean las ciudades, el hombre ha tenido que incorporar la presencia de los árboles, muchas veces como elementos decorativos, sin conocer más allá los servicios ecosistémicos que ellos ofrecen.
Es muy importante hoy día, más que antes, que nosotros trabajamos juntos en los diferentes sectores de sociedad, las instituciones de gobierno, el sector privado y tanto las comunidades propias, porque todos nosotros afectamos el mundo y afectamos el medio ambiente. Pues todos nosotros beneficiamos si trabajamos juntos como un equipo.
Que no habría forma de que esta herramienta siguiera desarrollándose aquí sin la ayuda, sin la acogida de las instituciones del Estado y de la academia, que en este caso es la universidad, ¿no? La academia nos da los investigadores, pero si no, los tomadores de decisiones no acogen la herramienta como parte de su proceso, pues entonces no tendría sentido.
Forestal desarrolló esta herramienta para que fuera utilizada por comunidades locales, pero en realidad el reto es usar la información. De nada vale que generemos todos estos reportes y toda esta información si no la utilizamos para lo que tenemos que utilizarla, para planificar el arbolado urbano, para diseñar ese arbolado de manera que sea funcional.
La ciudad de Santo Domingo, capital de República Dominicana, es el destino con mayor riqueza cultural del Caribe, ya que conserva todo el esplendor de su época colonial. Protegerla es vital para sus habitantes. INTEC abre nuevos caminos para redescubrir la relación del hombre y el entorno que le rodea.
We are helping of the planification of the urbanism of the city with these results, and we have a collaboration with the Botanic Garden of the Dominican Republic for the botanic collection of the urban forests of the city, and we are continuing working with this kind of project. As I said before, we make capacitation in Costa Rica and El Salvador, for they use this tool too and compare their analysis with their results with our results and Puerto Rico results. And we are working too with the public policy for the use of the metrics of the urban forests in the carbon sequestration metrics of the country. So for us, it's very interesting to continue doing that. And thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you, Solhanlle. What we're going to do is that we're going to continue with the presentations, and at the end, we're going to have questions from each of them, or for each of them. I just wanted to add that the observatory has many different institutions as part of it, from the Caribbean, from Latin America, but also from United States. Virginia Tech is part of this observatory, of Climate Change and Resilience Observatory. And the whole idea here is, how do we make sure that we work together from the universities, we work together from the different worlds, developed and developing world, but how the academia and research institutions can work together and get the results that we need. How can we make sure that when we need to do this and we need to use a tool like i3, we have partners to collaborate that will come and provide the training and create the capacity in country so we can do it ourselves. So it's not just hiring others to do it, but we learn. And at the same time, using also, getting all our students as part of it. So that exchange is extremely important. And now we're going to continue with Stella, Schons, Professor Schons from Virginia Tech.
Hello, everyone. Okay, so I was actually supposed to be moderating with Carol. And the Secretary General of the Amazon Cooperation Treaty Organization was supposed to come, but with the change of the conference from Chile to Madrid, she couldn't make it. So she asked me to come, and so I tried to put together something based on, mainly on the experience that I've had with them. My first job coming out of college, my first job coming out of college was with them in this project that I'm going to present today. So, and I've been trying to follow it. And when we were talking about the idea of having an event here about capacity building, this experience seemed like a perfect example of how countries, the academic institutions and research institutions of different countries within the same region can come together to kind of learn and exchange not only experiences but knowledge to like in the face of a problem, a transboundary problem, because we have the Amazon basin, we have 8 countries. It's the biggest river basin in the world. And even though these countries, they're very different from a cultural perspective, a social perspective, the economies, right? and even the ecosystem. When we think about the Amazon, we think about only the rainforest, but the Amazon basin comprises all of these countries, all the way from the Andes, right, to the sea, where you have the Marajó Island that is suffering from sea level rise on that end, and then from climate change, we have the glacier melting happening in the Andes. So you have a whole spectrum of problems, of hydrological and water resources management problems that we have to face because of climate change. So that's like the idea of this project that I'm going to talk about today. First, I just want to give you an idea of what the Amazon Cooperation Treaty Organization is. So we just say ACTO. It's a multilateral international agency for the Amazon region, and it was created in 2002. So, and it's hosted in Brazil, the headquarters. The objective is for the countries to cooperate, and they say towards a harmonic development of the region balanced with conservation, environmental conservation. And the organization started in 2002, but the history of cooperation at the basin level or at the regional level started back in 1978 when the Amazon Cooperation Treaty was signed. And the idea then was to bring together the countries to collaborate for development and also to strengthen the sovereignties of the countries over that space. So what you have is an Amazon Cooperation Council that is composed by the head of the foreign ministries of each country. And they are the ones who are making the decisions in terms of what projects and what guidelines are being developed for the basin. And one thing that is interesting is that everything needs to be like unanimous, right? All of the decisions that come out of this instance, they have to be unanimous. And then the last thing that I want to talk about them that I think is related to what we are discussing here is that they follow a series of guidelines that are discussed with the countries within this and approved by this council that it's called the Strategic Agenda, the Cooperation Agenda. And within that agenda, they have the Amazon Regional Observatory, and that's where they kind of have this vision of bringing together the knowledge that you have about development and conservation in the Amazon basin, bringing together the universities within the basin, but also outside of the basin to talk about and discuss the Amazon, the development and conservation in the Amazon region. Okay. So they have a series of projects, and mostly they're funded by other multilateral organizations and also by governments. But I'm going to talk about this project specifically that is funded by the Global Environment Facility. And the implementing agency is the UN Environment, and the ACTO would be the executing regional agency. So they're the ones who are actually implementing the project on the ground. So this project has been going on since 2005. That's when I was working in it. And it kind of follows this GF methodology that you have different phases. And the phases are always composed of like, you have a planning phase of how you're going to undertake what they call a transboundary diagnostic analysis. And that's pretty much kind of raising all of the knowledge that you have. In this case, it's a transboundary water resources management project. So all of the hydrological information and climate variability and vulnerability information that you have available. The idea is to put all of that together so that you can identify where the gaps are in terms of what needs to be done, right? And And then once you have that transboundary diagnostic analysis, the TDA, and by the way, the institutional and legal frameworks within that, like how the management of the water resources are happening is an integral part of this TDA, of this analysis. And then once you have this diagnosis, then you can come up with the development of a strategic action plan, which is the water resources management plan per se, right? So they've gone through that, and now they're going to start implementing the SAP, and that was approved just a couple of weeks ago. At least that's when I learned about it. So we still have at least 5 more years of project coming now to implement that strategic action plan. Academia and the cooperation between the different countries, and not only the universities, but the research institutions from the countries too. And they have different capabilities depending on their reality, right? They've come together under the umbrella of the ACTO to discuss all of these hydrological and climatic data and what the issues are, again, not only from an ecological perspective and hydrophysical, but also social, economic, and institutional. That's an integral part of a project like this, right? And even now that they're going to start implementing the SAP, they're scaling up the pilot projects that they've implemented, but they still need to continue collaborating because there's a lot of adaptive management to do along the way, right? So engagement with research institutions is key in this process. So here I decided to put like a little map of, so you can see where the countries are. So we have 8 countries: Bolivia, Brazil, Colombia, Ecuador, Guyana, Peru, Suriname, and Venezuela. Those are the 8 countries that compose the Amazon Cooperation Treaty Organization, and that have at least part of their land area within the Amazon basin. And those are like some figures for you to look at, just to kind of remind you of the magnitude of the basin. And one thing that I put there is the groundwater area. So when we think about the Amazon, we think only about fresh water, surface fresh water, right? But there's so much groundwater, and managing that is also important from a hydrological perspective, but like in the face of climate change, even more so, right? Because those resources, they can become strategic. And this is just a delimitation of the Amazon basin per se, with the main river channels. So here I just wanted to, they have this publication from last year in which they showcase some of their pilot projects and research. And those are the ones that are directly related to climate. So I just wanted for you to have an idea of what are the kinds of pilot projects that they implemented. So they've created like the first hydroclimatic atlas of the whole Amazon basin. They have like a set of 51 maps from, again, the hydrology to the like soils, socioeconomics, institutional, everything under, like inside that atlas. And the idea was to, at the basin level, try to identify what are the areas that are vulnerable to climate change, especially flooding and drought. The Amazon has been suffering with extreme droughts and flooding. The flooding is kind of normal to the ecosystem, right? But those extreme events have become more frequent, especially the droughts. So the idea was to kind of put together all of those layers of variables so that you can see where the vulnerabilities are. The study number 8 over there, it's a risk governance operative model. So that's a pilot project that they implemented. I'm trying to see where it was. I think it was in the Purus Basin. Yes, it's in the Purus sub-river basin. That's a transboundary area with Peru and Brazil. And over there, these are all related to like identify where the vulnerabilities are and coming up with ways of developing adaptation or information to develop adaptation measures in the future, right? So here, again, we are at this transboundary diagnostic analysis stage in which we are analyzing everything that we can, and we are trying out different things, right? So they were trying out different ways of looking at risk and vulnerability to climate change, and how you can use that information to come up with policies for mitigation, but mainly adaptation in this case, right? So we had a project in the Purus Basin. We have another one in the MAP region, which is Bolivia, Brazil, and I think Peru too. And in that case, it was a very participatory process. The society was working closely with the scientists in putting together a database that had household level socioeconomic information to geographical, hydrological, all that kind of information that we need to find the points of vulnerabilities or the regions of vulnerabilities. And then the last study is it was mainly concerned with a sea level rise. This is a pilot that was carried out in the Marajó Island, which is right at the mouth of the river in Pará State. They were also looking at what would be the socioeconomic impacts of sea level rise and also the erosion impacts. Okay. So the results from these studies, they are feeding the strategic action plan. And once that plan starts to be implemented, I just put there like I'm sorry it's so small, but it's an overview of what the SAP will look like. And in the third components that you cannot see, and I cannot see either, it's pretty much an integrated environmental monitoring and reporting system using indicator-based, an indicator-based system compatible with relevant international conventions in support of improved basin-wide integrated water resources management. So within that component, that's where all the monitoring systems are. And the idea is to put all of that information into a database, like a centrally located database that is linked to the observatory. And that database would allow scientists and institutions to fit into it, but also to use that data, those data to do research and help with adaptive water resources management in the Amazon region. And again, the importance of capacity building here is that you have different capabilities, right? So I know that in Brazil, for example, which is where I'm from, the National Spatial Agency has been doing a lot of work kind of building up capacity with the other countries in remote sensing or in water resources, hydrological analysis. The Brazilian Water Agency has been doing that. And so are the other agencies all involved. So you have governments, you have academic institutions, and you have institutions such as ours, even outside of the basin, helping out in this effort. So for the strategic action plan, Virginia Tech came in helping thinking about the financial strategy for the project, including conservation financing, pilot projects that will be undertaken going forward. Okay, so I'm almost done. And here is this is kind of, everything is my view, right? Because the ACTO is not here, unfortunately, to say what their, from their perspective, what their experience has been. But I think the diversity within the region can be a pro and a con. Again, it's really hard to get unanimity when you have such diversity in the region, but you also have different capabilities that are developed, right? And then everybody can grow together. So there's a lot of space to grow still. But despite of all the challenges, ACTO has been able to facilitate this process in which it is integrating technical and research, scientific knowledge throughout the Amazon region, engaging different academic institutions, and building capacity is at the core of what they're doing. Institutionally, that's how they can help the countries, right? And capacity building is a main factor in that, right? And leadership here is key. So one thing that I've kind of observed how things have evolved throughout these years since I left, you know, and now I'm back helping with the financing strategy, but what goes on within the project depends a lot of who's ahead of the organization and how, you know, proactive and how positive the leadership is. So, and I think right now we have, you know, two very good leaders that will allow this to take a much bigger format and impact, hopefully.
Thank you, Stella. Just to summarize, we just heard about two different observatories that serve as platforms for universities, for academia, for research institutions, to put data, to have data available for everyone. And the idea is that data is free, open access. You can have that data there, and also in both situations, they're also involving government institutions, because that's where the decisions are made, and they are the ones who are taking, who will also use that data for making decisions, adaptations plans, etc. Something else that is really important here is what Stella was saying about the leadership. I think the countries have to own it, and they have to become empowered. And this is what happened in both cases, both in the Resilience Observatory in the DR and in ACTO. So countries have to empower themselves. They have to own that platform and make sure that they use it, and also involve others. And in that case, us going there and supporting as Virginia Tech has been great, but it's also been providing capacity building, but it's something that it was already there. So they had it, they own it, and we go and support their efforts with our capacity and expertise and try to expand.
It's important that they are open to it. No, I was just gonna say that I think it's key also. It's the leadership, you know, the fact that they are open to having others work and support. You know, I talk with my hands, so I'm sorry.
Now, please, Luis, Marcelo.
Yes. Thank you very much, and good morning, everyone. So I'm going to talk about another partnership with Virginia Tech in a few minutes. Yes. I'm sorry, it's a PDF presentation, so probably someone will be passing the slides for me. Yeah? So if you don't mind, I'll stand up because I can't see either. So yes. So good morning again. Can you come to the previous slide, please?
The other side of the screen.
Okay. So this is the previous one, please. Yeah, that's the idea of our collaboration. I'm from the forestry department of the University of Lavras. So we are doing remote sensing, forest biometrics, economics to understand and tackle land use and land cover change in Brazil. So it's the partnership between UFLA and Virginia Tech. Sorry. So what is UFLA? Let me tell you what is UFLA. Yes, next one, please. So UFLA is the University of Lavras in the southeast of Minas Gerais, in the south of Minas Gerais, I'm sorry, southeast of Brazil. We are very close to the main cities in Brazil. Belo Horizonte is the capital of Minas Gerais, and São Paulo and Rio de Janeiro. So we are very strategically located in Brazil. Please, the next one. So that's an overview of the city, of the university. A little bit further, please. Yes. So that's the whole campus. I'm going to show you some figures of our university. Yes, come on. We have about 15,000 students, from undergrads and graduate students. We have 31 undergrad programs, 5 undergraduate programs which are stricto sensus, and 13 lato sensus, and 65 graduate programs, 33 masters, 23 PhDs, and 9 professional masters, please. So our staff composition is we have about 1,700 employees and staff members, and so the daily population in campus is about 17,000. Okay. So we have a main campus with 600 hectares, a new campus being constructed, 3 experimental farms, 27 departments, restaurant, museums, publishing houses, so it's a very well-structured university. And we are at the Laboratory for Studies and Projects in Forest Management. This is an overview of our department. Another overview of our department. All the yellow buildings here are from the Forestry Department. We have the lecture rooms, computer facilities, and so on. Now let's talk about what I came for. So the collaboration with Virginia Tech is via a memorandum of understanding between the two institutions. The type of capacity building is research-based environmental policy advice to contribute to the refinement of the country's land management tools. And the scope of the capacity building at this moment is a very large project we have in Brazil, environmental project, which is called the Environmental Rural Registry of Private Properties. In Portuguese, it's just Cadastro Ambiental Rural. Next one. So what is the Environmental Rural Registry, or the Cadastro Ambiental Rural? CAR, we call it CAR. It's an electronic registry system. It's a mandatory registry system for every and each rural property in Brazil. So it was established by the Forest Code from 2012, and so every property must register in this system. There is a deadline for that, I'm not sure about it, but there's a deadline, so every property must be integrated in this system. So what's the goal? The main goal is to integrate environmental information concerning the areas of native vegetation and the areas that are being used for production, okay? And as well to monitor changes in these areas, of course. So the database is composed by the declared data, so this is auto-declaration. The landowner must declare what he has in his property. So the declared data is the property boundaries, the areas that must be legally reserved for preservation, areas of permanent preservation, which are along river sides and the margin of the rivers, and the margin of the springs as well. And they have to delineate the consolidated rural areas, which are the areas that they are planting or they are raising cattle and so on. And all the other remnants of native vegetation they have in their properties. Okay? We have policy-related data, which the indigenous boundaries of indigenous areas, boundaries of conservation units, areas that are prohibited to be used for some reason, or legal reason, or persecution, or things like that. Settlement areas, communities, and traditional people. We have land cover data, wall-to-wall remote sensing-based classification, and the remote sense data used in this project comes from rapid eye images from 2011, 12, 13, 14, Landsat from 2008 and 15, and Sentinel from 2016, 17, 18, and now 19. So we have been monitoring each and every property since 2008, okay? The numbers we have, 5.5 million properties already registered in the system with all those information provided. And what's that number? 500 million hectares already declared in the database. This is the interface where the property owners or someone else has to get into this interface and delineate all those areas that I've shown you. So it's a complex system, of course. We have the cadastre module where the property owner delineates the areas, and we have the analysis module. Those are the most important for our discussion here. All the others are kind of auxiliary modules for those, okay? So here the property owner, he has to delineate everything. And here the state government has to validate the declaration, okay? So just an example for you. This is a property. This is the boundary of a property. In 2008, this is a Landsat image, and in 2011, this is a rapid eye image. So this is the boundary. So the property owner, he is supposed to get into the system and delineate everything here. He has to delineate remnants of native vegetation, consolidated rural areas, and areas that have been modified or deforested between 2008 and 2011. So just to give you one very important detail, the Forest Code gave amnesty to everyone who has deforested before 2008. But if you have deforested after 2008, in between 2008 and 2011, of course, this is the keystone, the starting point of the project, then you have to pay a fine, or you don't have amnesty, okay? So that's what the property owner has to do. So just an example what he has declared. He has declared that all this gray area was being used. And he had only this small rectangle with remnants of native vegetation. And this is the cadastre module, and this is the analysis module. So we have land cover for the whole country. And then we can see that he is lying. See? So that's the main idea. Let me show you another example. This is the bad guy. This is the nice guy. Yeah? So this is the property boundary. This is what he has declared, and this is what we mapped. Some differences. Okay? Another example. This is a very nice one because he has declared very right, except for the water. just the water, he forgot on purpose, I don't know, because he has to preserve also beside the water, along the water courses. So another one. So what is the main point of capacity building in this project? We have to train people to make the cadastre and to analyze the cadastre. So we have already numbers for that. And well, this is, we call it CAPCAR, which is capacity building for the Cadastro Ambiental Rural. And that's how we have been including stakeholders in the process. We have trained already 41,000 stakeholders for both modules. And these include landowners. They can do the cadastre themselves, but they can contract technicians to do the cadastre. So we trained landowners, we trained a lot of technicians, and we have been training grad students and undergrad students to develop further system approaches for the environmental rural cadastre. So that's the most important part of the presentation. And now we started cooperation with Virginia Tech to mainly in this area for science applications. What we intend with this cooperation, we want to develop models of land change concerning different areas and concerning different property owners. So, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Luis. I think we're running out of time. Can I have one question? Just one. Questions, please? Anyone? Yes? And us, we need to try to answer as fast as we can, please.
Okay, hey, I'm Ryan Mahoney from Virginia Tech. I was just wondering how often properties have to be monitored in order to make sure that landowners aren't violating. How often do properties need to be monitored in order to make sure landowners aren't violating conservation goals?
So it's every year. So the monitoring is on behalf of each state. Okay, so we don't. It's not part of the project, but each state has the responsibility of monitoring every property from their state, you know. So there is a difference between states. Some states do it every 2 years, some states do it every year, and some states are not included yet. Okay? We have maps from 2008 to 2018, for 2011 for the whole country, and every year after 2011 for about 6 or 7 states in Brazil. Okay.
There's one more, just at the end. And then we finish.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I want just to ask, please, first of all, I have to apologize because I come late, don't follow the presentation from the beginning. Just, I want to know if, when you say the persons declare their properties, they do it themselves or
it's.
Yes.
Can I? Yes.
Yes, please.
Yeah. It's the responsibility of the property owner.
Yes.
But he can contract a professional or
yes.
an engineer or
yes.
a specialist,
geographer
or
yes.
forester or engineering to do the cadastre.
Yes.
So the identification is the landowner.
Yes.
And then you have the identification of who draw the the things, you know?
Yes, the plane, yes. And the second question, please, if you permit, please, is what technology you are using? Do you use a Google Map or other thing to have the...
It's an in-house developed software, an application on the web.
Ah, you have the
yeah, we developed that at the university. Our own GIS application for the web.
Thank you so much.
Any more? Yes, more questions. We have more time. He said we have more time. Yes.
Thank you. May I know what steps are taken or motivation put in place to achieve compliance of the community or of those or the owners, the property?
We are not. Actually, we developed the tool. This is this is responsibility of the government, yeah, and we're still not in that phase yet. You know, there's a lot to go, and there's 5 million properties. Many of them are illegal, are deforesting illegally. The thing is that now we know who they are. Yeah, now the government has to take action, policy or...
Do you have a question? No? Okay.
Yeah, I guess my question is, so we've talked about capacity building and leadership and how important those things are. And my question is another kind of theme that's come up through this week is how we're working to engage and inform the people, the public, our stakeholders, about how this information is important and why you're collecting this data. How are you guys addressing that piece?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Well, I think the question is very similar to the last one. It's not easy to address that point, you know, because it came from the top. It came from the government as a law, as the forest code, and I think it would be much more effective if it was from the bottom to the top. But nowadays, it came as a imposition, and that's worst. That makes things much worse to make the people follow the rules, and much worse, much more difficult, in my opinion. And again, I have to say that up to now, our role was to develop the tools, how to make the people and the stakeholders to understand that and the importance of that. And as I showed you, many of them try to lie and to. So that's a big problem we still have. Okay.
Well, thank you very much.